What's up, everybody? It's Chris, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. This is the Blue Root Pod. On tap for today, we're going to give our top 10 favorite players, athletes under 24 years of age and under across all Philly sports. If you guys are watching, make sure you hit like and subscribe below on our YouTube channel. If you guys are listening, make sure you leave a 5-star rating and leave a review. It would be totally awesome. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Blue Root Pod. Let's start off with some introductions. Our first guest today, you know him as Adam. What's going on, Adam?
Hey, everyone. It's been a hot minute since I was on here, a couple of days. Glad to be back and talk more young prospects. Anybody who reads my stuff knows how into the prospect side of things I get. So getting hyped up for Eagles coming back soon.
Woo!
Phillies trade deadline, lots of exciting stuff, but always got to look to the future too. So real happy.
You can follow Adam on Twitter at Adam Sports. Anything you got going on right now, man?
I'm actually be kicking off some wrestling coverage. If you're a big pro wrestling fan, start looking for that from TPL soon. We're working on getting that up and running. And my first article, I think, actually coming out tomorrow, and we're going to see where that goes. So if you are a wrestling fan or a lapsed wrestling fan, there may not be a better time to get into it than right now. And so we're through draft season. We're through the off seasons now. And until basketball and football are back, got to find something to occupy the time, right?
Yeah, man. Also joining us today, we got Matt. Matt, how you doing, dude?
Doing well, Chris. Sorry, don't get to see my pretty face, but you get to look at this awesome picture of me that's from law school. Glad to be on again, talking about young talent in Philadelphia. You know, we've talked a lot about young talent with the Sixers, but now we get to talk about all the young talent in Philadelphia. And like Adam, I have a wrestling article coming out later this week. We're really taking the bull by the horns with the TPL wrestling stuff, and we'll hopefully have a podcast starting shortly as well. So if you're into that sort of thing, there's a little plug for that.
Awesome sauce. Make sure you follow Matt on Twitter at Pure Booyah. Today is definitely we're expanding. Summer Sixers are done, so the Eagles are starting tomorrow. Players report tomorrow. We are jacked up for some birds, baby. But just like everything, we're evolving to everything 24 and under across the Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles, you name it. And today we're going to kind of give you a show on our top 10 Philly athletes 24 and under. We did this a little different. So we made a top 10 list. Each one of us made a top 10 list. We don't know who's who on which list, but we did our list a little differently, didn't we? Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, I tried to look at guys who, for the most part, have already at least made some impact. But I also tried to fit in a couple guys who I thought had so much upside that I didn't want to leave them off. They haven't. Unlike when I chatted with you last and we talked about who was most important to the Eagles, this I tried to look at who was just the best regardless of what their role was. Anytime you add value into it, there's a lot of other factors. I want to take that all out. Who is going to be good? Who is good? That's what I took a look at.
All right. What about you, Matt?
So I took a look at first. I took a look at all the players 24 and under, and I made a decision that my list was going to be put together of who is good now and who is also a good prospect. And with that in mind, I looked at what. I'd say that every single player on my list is a player that I believe will be a priority to keep on their respective team into the future. And when their current contract ends, they will be a priority to add a new contract.
Awesome. My list is a little bit of a mix of players that I'm most excited about and players that I think are pretty much, the next that are going to be stars. The guys that are 24 and under, guys that have the best chance to become stars. Ready to get started, guys?
Always.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Let's start out with number 10. Who wants to go first? Someone say I.
I'll go for it.
Do it.
So my number 10 may be a surprise to many people, but it's Sir Anthony Dominguez. He's 24. He had some health concerns this year with Tommy John. He got the injection, which Aaron Nola got the same injection. He looks pretty good. So hopefully he's gonna be. I think his checkup's coming up within the next week or two. So hopefully we get some good news there and we get him back. He's on this list because I see him as a future closer. Last year, he was pretty dominant in the closer role. He had a few hiccups, but I think that he's the kind of bullpen arm that could be huge. I didn't realize how young he was. I actually thought that he was way older than that. So, a bullpen arm that we've already seen that could be on the Phillies for at least 4 or 5 more years is taking up the number 10 spot for me.
All right. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, I actually didn't realize he was under 24, and I never even took a look at him. So, or under 25. So, good catch, Matt. My number 10, and this is me being an NBA draft nut, is actually a player who only Villanova fans have heard of, but I consider Villanova a Philly team. And so, my number 10 is actually Brian Antoine. He's a freshman shooting guard at Villanova for this year.
Wow.
He's projected to be a lottery pick either this year or next year by many sites. As an NBA draft guy, I'm always in NBA draft mode, right?
I love it.
To me, Villanova is just as much a part of the fabric of Philadelphia sports as any of the pro teams. They play some of their games at the Wells Fargo Center, or all of their games at the Wells Fargo Center. They also have another top prospect, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, coming in this year. Both of them are top 20 prospects in college this year. And I'm going to give one other shout out. I know this is 3 people all at number 10, but sue me. Yetter Gross Matos, defensive end from Penn State. Penn State's not really a Philly team, so he would have been higher on my list if I could have caught him a Philly guy, but potential top 10 pick in the NFL draft next year.
Love it. I love how you're going out of the box, Adam. Going out of the box. Don't change. All right. My number 10 is Miles Sanders. I, like you, Adam, I'm going with a running back. Is it a good choice or bad choice? But I think I expect Miles Sanders to kind of get thrown into the fire this year. I expect Jordan Howard to get a bulk of the carries early on, but I expect Miles Sanders to be the one that really finishes it off this season with the Birds. I couldn't put Norvell Pell on this list, and I'm very upset about it because he's 26. He's on a 2-way with the Sixers. He would be my number 10. Eddie, should we put Norvell on it? I'm throwing him an honorable mention. Even though he's 26, he gets my honorable mention because we love him.
And for Brian Jacobs, let's add Chris Kumaje to that list, just for Brian. Yes. All right,
let's move on to number 9. Adam, go for it, man.
My number 9, player that Sixers fans are already quite familiar with, Zaire Smith, took my number 9 spot. I love the athleticism. Anybody who watches Summer League or Summer League highlights, I don't need to tell you what his athleticism ceiling is. He was throwing down alley-oops that were just mind-blowing. He should be in a dunk contest. He should be, give him all the accolades for that jumping ability. I'm still worried about whether he's going to be able to handle the size of the NBA. I'm still worried about whether he's going to be able to shoot the 3 in the NBA level. So he's a little bit lower on my list than he might be on some other people's list. But that upside is really real. If he can put it all together, and it may still be another couple years away. You can see why the Sixers, gave up the ready nowness of Michael Bridges for the type of upside that you can really drill over.
I did a poll on our Blue Root page, and it was like 650 votes. I did the top 4 prospects you're most excited about. It was Carter Hart, Alec Baum, Zaire Smith, and I think it was someone else. And Zaire Smith won it like 90%. That's how high people are. But then again, that poll, Texas Texas Tech loves to jack up our polls for whatever reason. So
hey, you know what? I hope that Texas Tech fans become Sixers fans. We'll take them from anywhere.
Well, what's interesting is the Blue Coats have a ton of Texas Tech players, ex-Texas Tech guys. So there's a little pipeline there.
Sounds good to me.
I'm okay
right.
with that. Texas Tech is a hell of a college program with an amazing coach.
Yeah, man. I did not have him at number 9, Zaire Smith. You might see him in a little bit. What about you, Matt?
My number 9 is Jordan Mailata. Has not played a single snap in the NFL yet, but if you listen to interviews about him from Lane Johnson or Peters or the offensive line coaches or anybody really, they are all just enamored with this guy. They see something in this guy that they've never seen before. He's a rugby player. He's never really played organized football in his life. He's a 380-pound puddle of clay, or however much he weighs, 320-pound puddle of clay, that they're just going to mold and make into a Jason Peters clone. And if he comes anything close to Jason Peters, we got a 7th round pick, 230 something overall. This is a guy that could wind up being one of the biggest steals in Eagles history.
Woo! All right.
I love Jordan Mailata. Huge fan. I would love nothing more than to see him become the next great left tackle superstar.
He's only 22.
Wow. That left tackle battle between Mailata and Andre Dillard should be kind of interesting, right?
It's absolutely what in a training camp that doesn't see a whole lot of battles. That may be the most interesting.
Yeah, man. My number 9 is Matisse Thybulle. Just obviously everyone that watched Summer League, just an immense 3-and-D prospect. I don't see him as having the ceiling of like a star by any means, but there's something to be said about having an elite role player on a championship, caliber team. I think Thybulle fits that bill. I think he's going to be just an elite team defender that fits perfectly next to Ben and Joel. Just so psyched to see him get minutes this year. I think it's going to be a gradual, slow burn for Matisse going into this season. Not like Zaire. I think Zaire's going to get thrown in a little bit. But I'm just so excited for Thybulle.
Yeah, I'm going to jump ahead because number 8 for me is Matisse Thybulle. So, we'll just to piggyback on there. Trying to distinguish Thybulle from Smith at this point is pretty difficult, we'll say. Thybulle's college numbers were absolutely insane. Will that translate to the NBA? Yet to be seen. I really like the 3-point stroke he showed in the summer league. I think a lot of people underrated his shooting because his shooting percentage this year wasn't so good, but it wasn't a form issue. So I think being able to be a professional, work full-time on that 3-point shot, if he can get that falling, he could be I think he's just going to be an impact player a little bit sooner than Smith. And that just that little bit of difference in terms of when I think they'll be ready to really make an impact is why I have Thybulle just a hair ahead of Smith. But I think Thybulle's still super excited about that. And to everybody who's still sad that we traded Carson Edwards to get him, go enjoy watching a Celtic. I don't know.
I second that.
Go ahead, Matt.
So my number 8 is Matisse Thybulle. He's a defensive specialist with a better shot than everyone gave him credit for. He was interviewed and he said, I don't know where this narrative is coming that I can't shoot. I wasn't needed to shoot when I was at Washington. I was the guy that got the plays moving and got the ball moving and was the defensive stopper. So I think he can do a lot more than people think he can do. And he's 22 already, and he's ready to go right now. As much as I love Zaire Smith, and you may see him later on the list, but he's 20 years old. He's still raw. He's still trying to put muscle on. And I think Thybulle is much more NBA ready at this point. And if we don't extend him off of his rookie contract, I'm going to be very disappointed.
It's one other thing about Thybulle that I just love, absolutely love. He understands his role. You listen to him talk, you listen to him in interviews. He understands what he is. He's not trying to be more than what he is. He understands what his job is. And in the NBA, oftentimes the difference between a good player and a mediocre player is understanding what you're good at and listening to Thybulle go, I know what I'm good at. I'm just going to do that. is just so huge. Otherwise, you end up with like somebody like Nerlens Noel who still hasn't accepted it and is a mess instead of being a good player, he's a mess. So just knowing that he's not going to try to be a slasher, he's not going to try to be a creator. He's going to get open. He's going to shoot threes. He's going to play defense, and so that's just so important.
Absolutely, having a guy that knows his role, wrestling pun, and those are just as important as all-stars. You guys like Robert Horry, guys that are major variables for a championship team. My number 8 is Nolan Patrick. I'm going on the ice here. Nolan Patrick, he's 20 years old. He struggled a little bit with inconsistency last year, but you look at the Flyers all last season. There was nothing but inconsistency on that team. This year, I think he's going to be a third string rather than being on the second string. His minutes may go down a little bit, but that'll give him at least a better chance to kind of shine against lesser players. Hopefully, as the season progresses, he plays better. He can be a winger. He can, go back to the second line. I like Nolan Patrick's chances, but then again, keep this in mind. He is only 20 years old. What do you say? Let's go on to number 7. Matt, lead us off, man.
My number 7 is, I think, my second player off the diamond, and that's Alec Baum. Baum, however you say it. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but he's played 25 games at AA this year with Reading, 7 home runs, 20 RBIs, batting .268. He played A ball and A+ ball already this year, and he was batting like .370. He was just absolutely destroying. So they moved him up, and he's struggling a little bit, but the talent is there, both in the field and in the batter's box. And he's 22 years old. He's really the top prospect for the Phillies at this point. Whether or not he's still going to be on the team after the trade deadline remains to be seen. What I have to say about that is I certainly hope we get a guy that's more than just a rental for this year to get us a wild card spot, because ownership is hell-bent on getting us to the playoffs after kind of pushing all the chips into the middle. But I think he could be a huge contributor as early as this September if he can really get it going in AA and maybe AAA. But he's certainly a piece that I see as a future starter for the Phillies.
You look at the Phillies farm system; it's pretty bare. And trading Sixto Sanchez, there are really like not many solid arms in that farm system. And now trading Alec Baum, who's one of the legit prospects on the Phillies farm system. I keep going back and forth with that, man. That is a really tough decision to do.
If the right deal came along, I wouldn't hesitate to trade him.
Okay.
I think that of the Phillies' top prospects, I think he's probably the most movable, only because I look at his batting profile and I have major concerns about how it's going to play as he moves up the ladder. He's not quite the same type of prospect like Rhys Hoskins. I don't know if you guys remember when Rhys Hoskins was coming up in the minors, but he was an incredible hitter. My concern with Alec Baum is that his batted ball profile is trending. Walks are going down, strikeouts are going up as he goes up each level. Maybe he hits, and maybe he can't hit in major league breaking ball. But yeah, I ended up, he was just off my top 10 just because I just don't like the way those numbers are trending. So I'm not going to be, I don't think that they should trade him, but right deal comes along. There's always a price.
And
everyone has a price.
He was the only player from the Phillies farm system to make it to the MLB Futures game a couple weeks ago. He's 22 years old. He is the Phillies are in win now mode, for the foreseeable future. And this is a guy that, I think the Phillies are counting on to step in pretty soon. Like you said, Matt, I think come September, I think we're going to get his first real at bat with the Bigs. My number 7 is Avante Maddox. What a year for Avante last year. He's only 5'9", but he was just, incredibly versatile all over the field when the entire secondary last year was just decimated by injuries. Obviously one of my favorite players. And now Ronald Darby is going to the PUP list. And I think McLeod's still recovering. I don't know if he's a full participant in training camp yet. So there it is. Maddox is going to be all over the field again for preseason. Go ahead, Adam. What's your number 7?
Yeah, it's a good pickup on Maddox, especially with Darby going out. My number 7 is a person who I'm not sure anybody listening to this is going to have heard of, but Jack Elliott from the Philadelphia Union. I don't know how many Union fans we have here.
All right.
He has started and played every minute for the Union this year at center back. They drafted him a couple years ago out of the MLS Super Draft, which you very rarely find useful players in. But he's just a rock back there and has provided some stability where we've lacked it. I think he's only like 22 years old. So, he could be a long-time fixture for the Union. He's already playing well. I don't think he's playing so well that he's, necessarily in any danger of getting poached by Europe, which is always, something you worry about. And so, big fan of Jack Elliott.
Love it.
And I think there's a lot of Union fans who might like other Union players. But my favorite of the bunch is Jack Elliott. So giving the Union some love.
Got to. The Painted Lines now is credentialed for the Union moving forward. That's kind of just in its infant stage right now. My number, are we on to number 6?
No, I think Matt's got to give us a number 7.
Did you do number 7, Matt? Earth to Matt.
Alec Baum was my 7.
All right.
We're good.
All right.
I had to double check. You got me nervous.
Then let me move to my number 6 just to confuse everybody, because my number 7 was Jack Elliott and my number 6 is Jake Elliott, who are not related in any way. Jack Elliott is British. Jake Elliott is very American. I don't even know if they know each other. Anybody who listened to our podcast on the Eagles know that I had Jake Elliott ranked as the most important Eagle. In this list, middle of the pack, I have him below a couple other guys. I think he's a good kicker. I don't think he's an elite kicker, but he's a very good kicker and a very good player. Under 25, good enough for this list.
Awesome. My number 6 is Alec Baum. We kind of pretty much nailed it across the board, but I'm going to pass the baton over to Matt. Go ahead. What's number 6?
Number 6 is a guy we've also talked about, is Zaire Smith. And what I'll say about Zaire is the bounce on this guy is just mind-blowing. And his offensive IQ and defensive IQ are both extremely high, way higher than he's given credit for. Obviously, people look at him as a defensive player. He played for that Texas Tech defense. And it's one of those guys that you see the potential in him. And if he can reach that potential in the next 2 to 3 years, oh my, watch out. To have Thybulle and Smith to both develop within the next 2 years, while we still have Horford and Ben and Joe and hopefully Richardson and obviously Tobias Harris under contract, to have those kind of guys coming off the bench, that's how you get a dynasty. The Warriors always had guys coming off the bench that were instant contributors on both ends of the floor, and that's what we're building here. Awesome.
Let's go on to number 5. I'll lead us off. My number 5 is Derek Barnett. For me, with the Eagles, it's number 1, protecting Carson Wentz. Number 2, getting to the quarterback. And Derek Barnett has to be not only is he under 24, but he has to be one of the most important players to the Eagles' success on defense this year. You look after Derek Barnett, you have like Sharif Miller, Vinny Curry, guys that, are really unproven. And Derek Barnett has to stay healthy. He has to attack the quarterback, and he has to show that he was the number 14 pick. Go ahead, Adam. What's your number 5?
I'm going to talk about Derek Barnett a little bit later. For me, number 5. For me, number 5 is Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert would probably be number 2 for me if Zach Ertz didn't exist, but okay. Zach Ertz does exist, and so even though I think Dallas Goedert might be one of the top, maybe 6 or 7 tight ends in the entire NFL, the fact is that he's the number 2 tight end here for his entire rookie contract. He's not surpassing Zach Ertz. There's no way around it. So as much as I think Dallas Goedert is a great player right now with huge upside, Zach Ertz is really good. So not the worst problem to have.
Not at all. What's your number 5, Matt?
So I'm finally going to the ice with Travis Konecny.
Ooh.
Travis definitely had a better rookie season than sophomore season, but if you look across the board for the Flyers, everyone's numbers were down. It was a disaster for much of the season. We had turmoil in the front office. We had turmoil on the bench. Total change of the guard. Hopefully the moves that we're making this offseason will put a more productive and more competitive team out on the ice. And Travis Konecny is a big part of that. He had 49 points last year. This is a guy who should be pushing 70 points. He's going to be playing on on a main line with Couturier and Giroux, and he's going to have every opportunity to do well. And I see him as a guy that the Flyers will prioritize as he becomes a restricted free agent after this season.
Yeah, I think if you ask most Flyers fan, Konecny or Patrick, you're going to get the answer both. So I don't know as much about the Flyers as I'd like to, but I'm glad that both Konecny and Patrick have gotten representation on these lists. I think both are great prospects for them.
There's a real chance that, like, if we do this pod, like, 12 months from now, there's going to be a lot of Flyers on this list. There's a lot of really young, very good talent that's just kind of developing.
Yeah, we should just set a reminder for 12 months. Get back on here, see how different our lists look.
Actually, like the plan initially right now is maybe we do one of these pods like every month or two and kind of see where we're at. We'll do like stock up, buy, sell type of thing.
Sounds good.
It'd be fun. All right, my number 4 is Zaire Smith. You guys pretty much nailed it across the board. Obviously, Summer League, he showed an improved handle. He showed a pull-up game. When I think of Zaire Smith, I think of immediately to last October when you had guys like J.J. Redick, Mike Muscala, T.J. McConnell getting significant minutes off the bench last year. I remember the Sixers getting cooked on defense from any average, point guard, shooting guard on an opposing team. And I just cannot wait for Zaire Smith to get his chance to shine. I think if does the Summer League mean anything? Maybe not. But to me, it looks to me that the speed of the NBA will not be a problem for Zaire Smith. He just seems like a baller, and I think he's just scratching the surface of his offensive potential right now. I think that was the eye-opening thing for me this Summer League was holy shit balls. Zaire Smith has more talent than I even thought he had.
Hey, Matt, who are you most looking forward to Zaire Smith stopping?
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Nailed it, man. Oh, my God. Nailed it.
I will be yelling a lot.
How much stock do you put into an elite on-ball defender? I mean, a lot.
It's probably, if not the most important, then top 2 most important things to have in the NBA.
I mean, if they can't defend off the ball, I'm not super excited. That's how you end up with Avery Bradley. But Zaire Smith also understands off-ball defense, so getting both in the same package is just awesome.
Yeah, man. Zaire Smith and Matisse Thybulle off the bench, man. Just counting down the days till
that backup unit of like Al Horford, Zaire Smith, Matisse Thybulle, maybe Mike Scott and Ben Simmons. Like, wow. I don't know how backup units will score on that team. That's just an insane defensive lineup.
It's something that's not being talked about enough, and we'll get into Ben Simmons, especially defensively. But
probably somewhere around number 1 for most of us.
Maybe. But I think not a lot of people are talking about how great defensively the Sixers are going to be this year, and how we always think back to like 2001 and how much fun that team was, just shutting teams down, holding them under 90 points every game, and winning with defense and perimeter defense and turnovers. I think this team is just everyone's gonna fall in love with this team on paper right now, at least. Go ahead, Matt. What's your number 4?
Number 4, we just spoke about. It's Dallas Goedert. 33 receptions for 334 yards and 4 touchdowns last season as a backup, not playing a ton of offensive snaps. It sure sounds like there's going to be a lot of 2 tight end sets this year. I don't think teams can defend both him and Ertz. I just don't think it's possible. If you remember back to the Patriots with he who must not be named and Gronk, those two together did so much damage. Whether it's the West Coast offense, the short passes, or getting in the middle of coverage, or even going for the deep stuff, these guys can both do it, and they're going to create so much opening for the running game, which we have all these good runners right now. He's so important, and he's going to stay on, and we're going to go with this 2 tight end set, and we're going to just destroy teams.
I'm looking forward to Dallas Goedert murdering defenses.
Yes.
What about you, Adam?
So my top 4, I managed to get one from each sport here. So number 4 is my top-ranked Philly, Spencer Howard.
Woo!
Okay. I think Spencer Howard, this is something that I see a lot in NBA draft and actually NFL draft a little bit, not quite as much, but really both drafts are into a lot. Spencer Howard was a walk-on in college. I don't think he was even drafted out of high school. I mean, he had no hype coming out of high school. I don't know if people know, but baseball was like his 3rd sport. And he walked on in college and threw 88 just as a walk-on who wasn't dedicated to the sport. It took him a couple of years to kind of build up that profile, worked his way into being a 2nd-round pick, still didn't really kind of have that hype, that profile. And then you just watch him pitch, you look at his numbers, and you go, why isn't this guy a top 10, top 15 prospect in baseball? Nobody can hit him. Like I just watch him and I go, if this guy was, pitching this well in high school and doing the high school perfect game circuit, went to a big, college, we'd be talking about him as the next ace. Why do I have him as number 4? Because pitchers are always, the most dangerous prospects, the most risky prospects. But man, he's got wipeout stuff, and if he could stay healthy and keep the control that he's shown so far this year, he'll be pushing Nola for that number 1 spot. I'm a huge fan.
It's a really good one. He's been lighting it up down there. Let's go on to number 3. For me, I'll start. It's Dallas Goedert. You look at the acquisitions of Deshaun Jackson, J.G. Arcega-Whiteside, Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard. Just everything is kind of lining up for Dallas Goedert to have a huge year. Obviously, he has Zach Ertz in front of him. But, I mean, I always go back to, like, what last season looked like when the Eagles' offense stalled. It was because Goedert wasn't involved as much as he should. When it was really, cooking on all, firing on all cylinders, that was when they had that 1-2 punch with Ertz and Goedert. Goedert had some major flashes, especially in the Dallas Cowboys game last year. Expect a ton of 2 tight end sets. Everything's kind of lining up for Goedert to really take that next step to become a legit top 10 tight end in the NFL. Adam, what's your number 3?
Number 3 for me, my top-ranked Eagle, Derek Barnett. I think you had him earlier. I think he was really productive his rookie season, had the injury last season, so didn't quite take the step forward that we were hoping, but he was ultra productive in college. He's been, if you look at some of the deeper stats, even though his sack numbers didn't look so great, he was really highly ranked in hurries and hits. So, he's going into his age 23 season. He should be fully healthy. He didn't, unlike some of our other players, he doesn't have 2 full years of full regular season to end playoffs. So he should be a little fresher, a little healthier. And if he could just find that extra little quarter step, that little extra juice to get to the quarterback, he could really be the breakout for the Eagles this year.
Oh, man, he could have the whole city of Philadelphia in the palm of his hand in just a short few months. So go ahead, Matt. What's your number 3?
So my number 3 is my final flyer on my list, and that's Carter Hart. He's 20 years old, 20. Had 16 wins in the NHL as a 20-year-old. .917 save percentage, .283 goals against average. Just for reference, the league leaders last year were at .934 and 1.89. He's got some work to do. His numbers already fall into the top 30 at both of those numbers, so he's already a starting goalie in the NHL at 20 years old. It's only going to get better from here. Not only is he good on the ice, he's also good off the ice. He did a couple things for some sick children and things like that, and made some wishes come true. It seems like he has a great personality, a great head on his shoulders, a great family unit. We can see how much a family unit can affect a prospect in sports. So everything's in place for him to succeed. His teammates seem to love him. The city absolutely adores him. So all good things here.
Carter Hart was my number 2. Everyone was a little worried that he got kind of pushed up to the NHL a little too quickly. But he looked like he had a head between his shoulders, and he handled it very well. This town has been starving for a number 1 goalie for decades, and here we are. And the amount of buzz and the expectations, I just hope he can live up to it, man. It's humongous. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, number 2, Carter Hart. I think Carter Hart's got to be, considered in that top tier of prospects. The big thing that stood out to Carter Hart to me, watching him, his positioning is so good. The good goalies make great saves. The great goalies are already there, and the amount of time that he was already there was super impressive to me. Matt read his numbers. I think that his defense, a couple of his defensemen really, really let him down at times. I think that a guy who would have certainly made this list last year but didn't this year, Ivan Provorov, had a really painful year this year. He was really struggled this year. Some of the other young defensemen really struggled this year. I know. Travis Sanheim you mentioned earlier, Philippe Myers, huge defenseman. I think
Farabee, Morgan Foss.
So I think that if we get a little more help in front of Carter Hart, again, as Matt said, 20 years old last year, absolutely insane what he did. Get him more help, and finally, we could have our goalie.
No doubt, man. How about you, Adam? Did we get all number 2s there?
I got my number 2. My number 2 is Derek Barnett. He in 2 seasons has 37 tackles and 7.5 sacks. Obviously, his season was cut short last year. He's 23 years old. He's an incredibly important piece of this defensive unit that we have. He's going to be there for a while. Schwartz loves him. Doug loves him. All of his teammates love him. The guy is just a gamer. He just seems to get up for the big games, and he doesn't make mistakes. He's always where he needs to be. He always reads the quarterback properly or reads the play properly, and he is extremely important to the entire overall success of our defense.
And when Tom Brady fumbles in the Super Bowl, he picks it up off one bounce without fumbling it.
Yeah, which is something we haven't had in the past.
No, it's not. I wonder what we're going to have for number 1.
Well, instead of just going through, like, everybody watching this, everybody listening to this knows everything about Ben Simmons. So instead of us just talking about how awesome Ben Simmons is, I want to do a prediction game.
All right.
What game of the season does Ben Simmons hit his first 3-point shot?
I go back to like Markelle Fultz I think it was the second preseason game against the Magic. Markelle Fultz hit one. It was in a corner. I think it was in like the first 2 minutes of the game. In fact, I will go. We don't know. It's definitely going to be in the preseason.
Let's talk regular season. Let's talk game of the regular season.
In the regular season?
Regular season.
All right, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I just need to preface my answer real quick. Adam and I, we have season tickets. We go to many of the home games, and we get there early. I like getting there early, and I like watching the warm-ups. And we watch Ben Simmons warm up, and he is always taking three-pointers. He's always taking jump shots. He's always practicing it, but actually doing it in the game hasn't happened. videos now popping up of him doing it in a scrimmage game. It's all well and good. We know he can shoot. I've seen him do it a million times. He just needs to get that confidence to shoot and be okay with failing a little bit. Giannis shoots 30% from three. Joel Embiid shoots 30% from three. It makes them better. It's counterintuitive that a 30% three-point shooter is going to help your team, but it does, especially in a pick and roll offense. He's got to learn how to do that. So if they do bring in a pick and roll offense, which is 100% what they should be doing right now, and get rid of that horrific, the screens, the dribble handoffs, and all that. We're going to see a guy who has to take that shot. So I say he will do it within the first 5 games.
Oh, so I was like right around the 4th or 5th game. Typically, you're probably going to see the Sixers go up against the Celtics or the Bucks or the Raptors, probably in that first like couple games. And then I think like that 4th game, they'll probably play some trash team like the Hornets and blow them out. And I foresee Ben like in a blowout when, it's the 4th quarter with like 6 minutes left. The Sixers are up 20. Ben will like walk up and hit a pull-up 3. That's how I see it happening.
I'm going to say that it's going to be his first road game because I think Ben gets a little self-conscious. We've seen him like open at the 3-point line. Like Matt said, we watch him hit these all the time. And then he gets all tied up with himself. So I think it's going to be the first regular season road game just because I just think that he's going to need to get over that mental hurdle, and I think it's going to be easier for him to do it when he's not in front of the home fans. But I'm so happy that we all think it's going to happen early in the season. That just tells us the type of confidence we have. Because, guys, I think if Ben Simmons can hit 3-pointers, as Matt said, even at 30%.
It's over.
Just give us the rings now.
Whoa.
I don't even. Yeah, I mean, nothing else matters more than that. Nothing else matters other than like Joel's health. It's all about Ben Simmons' confidence and shooting that pull-up jumper. If he starts doing that, I don't even care if it goes in. He just needs to have the defense respect him on offense. They can't sag off him like we saw in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look at what Joe does. He can't shoot the 3, but because he does shoot it, every time he pump fakes, we get to watch 7-foot, 250-pound men go flying.
The best. It's the best. Any last comments about Ben, Matt?
I think I've said my piece on Ben. I'm a big Ben defender. I'm really quite fed up with the rhetoric that we're seeing online toward him. I don't know why he's a villain. And he's a villain somehow to opposing teams, which I completely get. I want opposing fans to absolutely hate our players because that means they're doing something right. But when your own fans hate on, there was a game last year, I think Adam was with me, a guy in the section next to us started going after Ben Simmons, and I literally lost it. and the guy, I screamed, I cursed, the entire section was cheering for me, and the guy was done. It was it. I think people just need a wake-up call that rooting against your own team, I know why people are doing it. It's counterproductive. It doesn't do what you think it's going to do. I know we do the whole tough love thing. What they're doing with Ben Simmons is not tough love. It's something completely different and something completely destructive that needs to stop.
We did it to Andre Iguodala back in the day, too. I never got that either.
Right on. Any last words before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with Matt. I think it's okay to rag on your own players if they're John Simmons, because John Simmons is awful, and thank God he's gone.
Yeah, but not Ben Simmons, a 22-year-old all-star.
I'm just looking at my list. I had a group of honorable mentions, just guys I wanted to make sure we mentioned at some point. The only guy on my list who didn't end up on any of our lists, who I think a month or 2 months from now we could all look back and go, how did he not make it? Adam Hazley. Up with the Phillies, playing center field, playing pretty well for.
He just fouled out with the bases loaded. I'm not happy with him right now.
Well, they can't all be winners, but former was he a number 1 pick or a top 10 pick?
Hazley was like number 3 or 5
yeah.
around there.
Yeah, he was a high pick. So I just want to mention him because he's the only guy that isn't on any of our lists and didn't get brought up at all, who I think at least deserves a mention.
Mickey Moniak has been tearing it up as of late with the Reading Phillies.
Yeah. So and if you're not following our Reading Phils coverage, I think Ty Daubert is covering that. Make sure to check that out.
Yeah, man, there's a lot going on at the Painted Lines. We just recently got soccer credentials, so expect a lot of soccer content coming soon. Expect a lot of wrestling content. Am I right?
Yeah.
We got, if you like drinking and beer and Sixers, make sure you check out Process Potables. Dan Morgan, awesome stuff. If you love Sixers and Eagles content, make sure you check out the Philly Special Podcast. We also have superhero podcast called Suit Up that covers everything from superheroes, Marvel, DC, and even Disney. Then we have fantasy podcasts that deal with everything from like Game of Thrones to His Dark Materials. They're getting ready to check out that new HBO series, and they read all the first book, I think, and reviewed it all chapter by chapter. Any last comments?
Always a pleasure to be here, Chris.
Yeah,
thanks for having me, Chris.
Thanks for joining, guys. Make sure you follow Matt on Twitter at Pure Booyah, and make sure you follow Adam at Adam Schwartz. Gosh, that's so hard to say. I'm Chris, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Stay awesome, guys. See ya.